Anyways, it goes on to talk about it was the seat of Admiralty law. So this article continues, and so I don't have to read the whole thing, but at the bottom of here it says the Maritime Code of Wisby commanded implicit obedience from the ports of Russia to the Mediterranean. So this little island controlled everything. And it was the groundwork of the Admiralty law of the world today. So this article is from 1870.
The Balkans have a pyramid, and it's interesting you pull up, talking again about Old World Florida, because we were looking at the Barbary Wars, and you look at how the Barbary Wars immediately end. They go into finding all these Bedouin princes who were considered scoundrels all across the area of the Mexican Gulf, right? This Gulf Spring that is possible to get anywhere in the world from.
And what's really also interesting is that after I published this article about Gotland, Victor reached out to me and told me that Gotland was completely closed off to the public until like 2000.
Really?
And in this article, this is from 1872. I'll just read the whole thing. Gotland is the largest island in the southern part of the Baltic, being 80 miles long and 33 miles wide. It is a limestone formation, and the rocks are full of fossils and petrifactions. A considerable business is done at Wisby in making columns for churches and marble tabletops, brooches, and other ornaments of the choice specimens of the stone and coral formations. Here, nearly 500 years before America was discovered, was a mart of commerce and a seat of wealth unrivaled by any other seaport in northern Europe. Across the plains of Tartary and up the rivers over the steeps of what is now Russia came the caravans of merchants with their costly goods, which were shipped in multitudes of vessels to Gotland. This lovely island, why were they shipped to Gotland? Because Gotland was the bridge to America. This lovely island in the Baltic began to attract people from all nations. The Arabians brought their precious stores, and their silver became the currency of the country. Their silver, not their gold. That's an important connection. The choicest collection of Arabic coins in existence is probably that in the Museum of Antiquities at Stockholm, and this was chiefly gathered from the island of Gotland. Wisby became the emporium of the West, and during the 14th and 15th centuries, it was the principal factory of Hanseatic League. And it keeps going. The whole island of Gotland is of interest. In a drive of 36 miles, we visited a dozen ancient churches and left more than 80 unseen. Many of these have been restored and have been thoroughly whitewashed. Very important. Restored and whitewashed. Thus covering up their former elegant carvings, tracery, and being supplied with hideous paintings and wooden images of Christ and the Virgin Mary. So these weren't Christian. Huh? These weren't Christian churches. Okay, in this tiny little island, there are over 100 churches, and none of them are Christian. Arabic coins, right? The people are religious, and these restored churches are thronged by the simple peasants, and some of whom are doubtless the descendants of those cultivated and wealthy merchants who filled the island with luxury, and the arts which wait on wealth 7 centuries ago. But I must stop. If you have over on Europe and long for something fresh, anyways, it goes on to talk about that it was the seat of Admiralty law. So this article continues, and so I don't have to read the whole thing, but at the bottom of here it says the Maritime Code of Wisby commanded implicit obedience from the ports of Russia to the Mediterranean. So this little island controlled everything. And it was the groundwork of the Admiralty law of the world today. So this article is from 1870.
That is very interesting. Are you familiar with Candia? The Siege of Candia?
No. Fill me in.
So there's a sister city to Gotland, actually. And the Siege of Candia, it's about the Kingdom of Candia. In case you needed a fun little look at that, right? There's their sigil, their flag, right?
Yep.
But the Siege of Candia goes a little deep. Look at this, right? Look at this guy with swinging a baseball, right? I think is what's going on there. That must be what's happening. So, but the Siege of Candia. So basically, this was the South version. And I did a Google map because I thought it'd be funny. Like, how would you get from Gotland? Well, you could go straight across. But there's also like literally a river path. So if you just took the boat, you can go straight to Greece. So this is a pretty good thing if you happen to have a Viking boat, they can deal with that kind of, whatever. But the Kingdom of Candia which is in modern day Heraclean Crete, a military conflict where the Ottoman forges besieged a Venetian ruled city until eventually they won, really. And then they just, because they could, like, and even the Vatican was like, we can't really win this. It's like 21 years, I guess, is going on for it. And maybe there's a conflict before it. And so finally they just like let them have it. They're like, okay, fine. We can't do anything about it. But then in exchange, they allowed for Dubrovnik and parts of, the Roman coast to be seceded back to the Vatican. Like, all right, well, you guys can have that area. Like, let us just have Gotland and Candia, and we can do whatever we want with these. And martial law was a major part of this because you have the Janissaries who were drafted, conscripted in exchange for their families being protected. You didn't pay taxes. You just gave your kids, and a couple of your kids would join. So they had tons of Christians that were, or whatever, that, maybe they're pagans, like they're local Tartars, and they're working for the Hungarians. They're working in Berlin, they're working in Vienna, but they're also working in Gotland and they're working in Candia in order to keep this going. And they have family on either side in order to communicate with merchants from the other city. So you send it to your cousin, and your cousin is a specialist there. So kind of interesting. Like it's the sister city is the Candia, which had the Siege of Candia.
Very interesting. Yeah, I mean, I think that what I was talking about with Gotland, that's kind of originally in the ballpark of what made me reach out to Longo, because it just was coincidental that I was crossing a bunch of my T's with the Gulf of Mexico. I've been talking about, I've been talking about Mexico and Tenochtitlan for 5 years and what they really symbolized. But yeah, making the connection with the Gulf Stream and resets and ice ages and all these things, and how these ice ages are actually far closer to our actual time frame than we're led to believe. And the dinosaur thing connects with that. And, these millions of years time frame things are ridiculous. But yeah, I think the age of giant trees and the vapor canopy was maybe 1 or 2 electromagnetic flips away.
We all want to live a healthier, more natural life. And after the last few years, many of us are a little wary of doctors and their wares. So, in my opinion, it's a good idea to learn how to grow your own. That's right, grow your own medicinal plants. But how do you do that? Well, you do it with the complete natural pharmacy for your backyard. Now, this garden medicinal kit actually comes with the seeds you'll need. It comes with the seeds of 10 easy to grow plants that you can grow in your garden. And then it also shows you how to turn these plants into salves, tinctures, teas, etc., that you can use to heal yourself and your family naturally. There's yarrow, the backyard wound healer. Marshmallow, which is great for any digestive issues you might be having. Evening primrose, a natural remedy for skin and nerves. And echinacea, which is the most powerful immunity plant, and everyone should be growing it, and much more. So click the link below in the description and find out some more information of how you can start to grow your own medicinal herbs and start to take charge of your own and your family's health. Click the link below and start to heal yourself naturally.